Her nails dug into his back. His breath hitched against her throat. "Say it," she whispered. His voice cracked as he did. "You're the only thing that's ever made me lose control. You made it this far. Don't stop now. Like, share and subscribe so you won't miss what happens when control shatters. And love takes over." Boston, 6 to 12 p.m. 2 hours before I ran. I had never seen so many mirrors in one room. They lined the walls from floor to ceiling, gold-framed, spotless, cold. Every reflection was me, but none of them looked like someone I knew. Just a girl in ivory satin, a porcelain doll with painted lips, and a gaze like still water. Pretty, silent, replaceable. "Don't fidget," my father snapped, tugging the lace on my shoulder straighter. His breath smelled like scotch and stress. "You're making it worse." "I can't breathe," I whispered. "You'll breathe just fine once this is over." I looked down at my hands. The gloves they gave me were too tight. Symbolic, I guess. Everything about today was. The dress was custom, flown in from Milan. The ceremony was set inside a Roman Catholic church that reeked of old money and old sins. There were 300 guests. I knew maybe 5 of them, and waiting at the altar would be Damian Blackwood, a man I'd spoken to exactly once. He hadn't looked at me then either. There were rules in my family, unspoken ones, passed down like silverware. You don't talk about money, you don't question men, and you never ever walk away from a deal once it's signed, especially not when the debt is in the millions, and your father's name is inked on every dotted line. My price had been negotiated, behind closed doors. I found out about the wedding when I got the invitation. My room overlooked the back courtyard of the church. Below, white roses curved in perfect symmetry around marble statues of saints whose eyes seemed to follow me. It had started to drizzle. Light, like a warning. I pressed my forehead against the glass, breathing in the cool fog. What if I just left? That thought had come to me before, dozens of times. But this time it didn't feel like fantasy. It felt like friction, like the snap before the break. I stepped back from the window. Then I opened the closet and pulled out the black flats I'd hidden under the hem of the dress bag. Downstairs, they were preparing to line up for the procession. My father was giving last-minute orders. The guests murmured in candlelight, sipping champagne they didn't pay for, pretending they weren't watching a girl being auctioned in silk. I slipped out the service door near the sacristy, heart pounding like war drums. I didn't look back. Outside, the drizzle had thickened into rain. The Boston air wrapped around me, wet, sharp, honest. I gripped my skirts and ran, the satin dragging along the cobblestones like the tail of a ghost. Cold water soaked through my bodice. My bare shoulders trembled. My breath fogged the air in short, terrified gasps. Every cell in my body screamed, "Go. Now." I reached the gates. The iron was cold beneath my fingers. I shoved them open with everything I had left, and froze. He was there. Standing under the crooked light of the street lamp, black suit soaked through, rain dripping from his sharp jaw. Damian Blackwood didn't look like a groom. He looked like a man sculpted out of shadow and storm. His hands were in his pockets, his hair slicked back, dripping. His eyes locked onto mine like magnets made of frost. He had been waiting. He knew. "You're late," he said. His voice was quiet, steady, deeper than I remembered. It vibrated in the pit of my stomach. I took a step back. "You followed me?" I rasped. "I anticipated you." He moved forward, deliberate and slow, like a predator with no need to rush. I backed into the wrought iron gate behind me. My lungs squeezed tight. "I'm not doing this," I said. "You can tell my father whatever you want, but I'm not marrying a stranger to pay off his mistakes." He stopped 3 feet away. Rain poured between us. I could smell him. Cedar wood and whiskey, even drenched. Everything about him was controlled. Until his eyes. His eyes weren't calm at all. "You're not marrying a stranger," he said softly. I blinked. "Excuse me? You think this is about a debt? About a name on a contract?" His voice sharpened. "Your father's deal was the opening. But you were always the target." "What the hell does that mean?" He stepped closer. I didn't move. "You don't remember me, do you?" His tone cracked, just a little. "Of course you don't." He looked away for half a second. Rain dripped from his lashes. Then his gaze snapped back to mine, wild now. Unedited. "I waited for you once before," he said, "and you never came." I didn't understand. My brain scrambled, reaching for memories that weren't there. You gave me a cupcake," he said suddenly. "In a foster home outside Alston, 10 years ago. I was 16. You were what, 11? The breath left my lungs. I did remember the boy in the corner who didn't speak, who flinched when people touched him. I'd handed him a cupcake with too much icing and said, "Happy birthday," because no one else had. "I didn't know that was you," I said. My voice felt thin. I never forgot. He stepped into the last inch between us, rain cascading, down both our faces like silk threads unraveling. His hand cupped my jaw. "You're mine now, Elena," he whispered, "and I don't let go twice." Boston, 6:37 p.m. The moment I realized no one was coming to save me. "You're mine now, Elena, and I don't let go twice." His voice was rain and steel and something deeper, something that made my knees tremble, against the slick stones beneath me. I should have pulled away, screamed, fought. Instead, I stood still. The cold didn't reach me anymore. Not with his hand on my jaw. I slapped it away. Hard. His head turned slightly from the impact, but he didn't flinch. The corner of his mouth lifted, just barely. "There she is," he said. "What is wrong with you?" I snapped. "You think this is romantic? Stalking me? Trapping me like some animal?" Damien's eyes darkened, not in anger, but in calculation. "If I thought romance would work on you, I might have tried it," he said calmly. "But you don't want sweet. You want truth. I want my life back. You gave it up when you let him sell you." The words landed like a slap harder than mine. "You think I had a choice?" I hissed. "You think I wanted to stand in front of strangers like a pawn being moved across a board I didn't even know I was on?" "No," he said. "But I do think you're strong enough not to pretend you're helpless." I blinked at him, breath ragged. Rain kept falling between us. But it might as well have been fire. "You think you know me?" I remember a girl who walked into a room full of broken boys and offered me a cupcake like it could fix anything. Like it could fix me. He paused. His voice dropped. No one had ever looked at me like I mattered. You did. For 10 seconds. And it rewired everything. I hated how my heart clenched at that. "You were a kid," I muttered. "That memory. It doesn't mean you get to own me now." "I don't own you," Damien said quietly. "But I do know what I've waited for, and I'm not letting it slip away again." He reached for me again. This time I stepped back first. "No," I said. "I'm not going back to that church. I'm not standing in that dress under those lights just so you can feel like you finally won something." His jaw ticked. "Then don't," he said. I blinked. "What?" "I canceled the ceremony the moment you ran. Told them you were sick. The guests were sent home 10 minutes ago." "You... what?" "I never wanted a public show. That was for your father. I just wanted you in my house. My world. On my terms." I stared at him, stunned. The control. The calculation. He'd anticipated every step, even my rebellion. I hated how brilliant it was. A black car pulled up behind him, sleek, silent, like it had appeared out of fog. He stepped aside, motioned toward the open back door. You can come now. Or you can walk barefoot in a storm, soaked to the bone, and wait for someone else to help. But there won't be anyone. You already know that. I didn't move. He stepped forward again, leaned down just enough that I could feel the heat of his breath through the rain. I'm not going to hurt you, Elena. I never will, he said. But you are coming with me, whether you walk or I carry you. His voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. I looked at the gate behind me. Empty street. No headlights, no escape. I hated him for being right. I hated myself more for wanting to believe he wouldn't break me. I stepped toward the car. He opened the door and waited, silent. I slid inside. The interior was dark leather and silence. The windows fogged slightly from the contrast of my soaked skin and the heated air. I sat rigid, fists clenched in my lap, every sense alert. Damien entered a moment later, shut the door, and the world fell quiet. Rain drummed against the roof. The driver pulled away. For a long moment, we said nothing. Then, "You didn't have to wait outside," I said, voice low. "I wanted to." "Why?" He didn't look at me. "Because I knew you wouldn't believe I cared unless I got wet too." I turned to face him. "You scare me," I admitted. His head turned slowly, eyes locked on mine. "Good." My heart stuttered. "Why?" "Because fear means you're paying attention," he said. "And I'd rather have your fear than your indifference. At least fear is real. That's twisted. Maybe," he said, "but it's honest." The car curved through downtown, then onto a private road flanked by trees. Gated property, long driveway. The kind of home you only see in glossy magazines under headlines, like Where Power Lives. The car stopped. Damien opened his door. This time, he didn't wait. He came around, opened mine, held out his hand. Not as a gentleman, but as a command. I stared at it. Then I took it. His fingers closed around mine. Firm, warm, certain. No room for second guessing. He led me up marble steps, through towering black doors, and into a house that whispered wealth with every inch of silence. No servants in sight, no warmth either, just him and me, and a locked world that had no exit. Blackwood Estate, 7:12 p.m. The door closed behind me, and the world I knew disappeared, the house was too quiet, too perfect. Marble floors stretched beneath golden chandeliers. Dark wood paneled the walls like the inside of a jewelry box. Glass doors lined the corridor, opening to manicured courtyards where nothing looked alive. Only curated. I followed Damien through the entryway, dripping rainwater across what looked like a $10,000 rug. He didn't comment. He didn't speak at all. I could hear the sound of my wet dress sticking to my legs, my breath, my heartbeat. His silence was heavier than his footsteps. We passed a hallway of portraits. All oil, all unfamiliar, no family photos, no childhood smiles, just strangers in heavy frames watching me with blank stares. "Who are they?" I asked. Damien didn't turn. People who built the world I now own, cold, accurate, and utterly unrelatable. We stopped in front of a black double door. He opened it without a word. "This is your room." I stepped inside. It was beautiful, of course. King-sized bed, velvet drapes, a fireplace already burning low. The window overlooked a garden with trimmed hedges shaped like spirals. A bathroom, larger than my first apartment. And yet it felt sterile. Like someone had Googled what a woman might like and then designed a 5-star prison. I turned to him. How many other women have you put in this room? His brow ticked. None. I couldn't tell if that scared me more. He handed me a keycard. Your room is yours, locked from the inside. No one enters unless you open it. Except you. I'm guessing. Damien's lips curved, just barely. Even I respect locked doors. If I wanted a pet, I'd buy one. I took the card, not because I trusted him, but because it was the only thing in this house that felt like mine. When he left, I didn't unpack. I wandered. There were no cameras, no guards. But somehow, I knew I was being watched. The estate was massive, a maze of mirrored halls and high ceilings. Each room was more extravagant than the last. A private theater, an indoor lap pool, a library with shelves that stretched 3 floors, but not one photograph, no signs of real life. It was a house designed for power, not people. In the dining room, a long mahogany table gleamed under antique chandeliers. There were 2 place settings, one at each end. When Damien entered, he didn't sit next to me. He didn't speak right away either. Just uncorked a bottle of wine, poured 2 glasses, and handed one across the vast table like we were business associates signing a treaty. Didn't drink it. Am I supposed to thank you? I said. His eyes flicked up. For what? For saving me from a wedding you planned? I didn't plan the wedding. Your father did. But you approved it. I tolerated it. There's a difference. He finally looked at me, really. Looked, and I hated how steady he was, how unreadable. What do you want from me, Damien? He tilted his head. Your attention. I laughed, bitter. You already have that. You want applause too? No, he said. I want you to stop. Pretending you don't feel anything. Silence fell like a guillotine. He sipped his wine. I watched him, waiting for the next command, the next control play. But none came. Just silence. And the flicker of candlelight across crystal and bone china. Later that night, I stood by the window of my room. The rain had slowed to mist. The garden outside gleamed under moonlight like a secret only this house knew. I couldn't sleep. Not because of fear. Because of him. He hadn't touched me, hadn't yelled, hadn't even locked me in. But somehow, I felt more trapped than ever. It wasn't the walls. It was the weight of his gaze. The certainty in his voice. The sense that every move I made had already been calculated in advance. I hated how much space he took up in my mind, and somewhere beneath that hate, I felt heat. There was a knock. I tensed. My hand went to the keycard instinctively. But I didn't. Lock the door. I opened it. He stood there, barefoot, no jacket, shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows. Hair still damp from earlier. Damien didn't step in. He just looked at me. And for the first time, I saw something human in those steel eyes. Not weakness, but restraint. I just wanted to make sure you had what you needed, he said. I don't need anything from you. His jaw flexed. Not even answers? My breath caught. No, I lied. He didn't call me on it. He just nodded once, like he'd filed that response into some mental folder labeled "in progress." Then he said something I didn't expect. I used to dream about that cupcake. My heart skipped. You're serious? I remember the sprinkles. They were blue. I thought that meant something. I swallowed hard. It didn't. His mouth twisted. That's what I told myself too, until I saw you again. And with that, he turned. Left. Didn't try to enter. Didn't touch me. Didn't threaten. Just left me standing there, heart racing, skin burning, surrounded by more luxury than I'd ever seen. Feeling like the poorest girl in the world. Blackwood. Estate, 11:03 p.m. I heard him before I saw him. A crash. Not loud, but distinct. like glass meeting marble. I froze. For a house so obsessed with silence, any noise felt like a crime. I slipped into my slippers, pulled the silk robe tighter around my waist, and opened my bedroom door. The hallway was dim. Only the fireplace down the corridor cast a faint orange flicker across the floors. Shadows stretched long and tall, cold against my bare feet. The sound had come from the study. I found him slumped in the leather armchair. A glass of something, dark, spilled across the floor. The tumbler cracked near his feet. Damien didn't look up when I stepped in. His jacket was off. Shirt half unbuttoned. Hair messier than I'd ever seen it. One elbow rested on the armrest. The other hand pressed against his forehead, like trying to hold something inside that was clawing to get out. "You drink alone?" I asked quietly. He didn't jump, just said, "Sometimes." I stepped closer. The scent hit first, whiskey and cedar and something faintly metallic. Blood. "Are you hurt?" He didn't move. "Glass," he said. I squeezed too hard. His right palm had a shallow cut, thin line, already clotting. "I'll get the kit." The first aid box was in the guest bathroom. I grabbed it, then returned and knelt in front of him without asking. Years of taking care of my father's hangovers and gambling bruises had trained my hands to move without thought. But Damien wasn't drunk. He was something else entirely. "I can handle it," he muttered. "You clearly can't." He didn't argue further, just watched as I cleaned the wound, applied the salve, and wrapped the gauze with practiced ease. His skin was warm under my touch, tensed like he didn't know what gentleness felt like. When I finished, I looked up and realized how close we were. My knees on the carpet, his legs on either side of me, his face tilted down, our eyes locked in a kind of stillness that made the air shift. "I've seen that look before," he said softly. "What look?" "The one you're giving me now. Like you're waiting to see if I'll break. Are you going to?" "I already did. Years ago." The confession hung between us, raw and simple. No poetry, no defense, just truth. I sat back on my heels, studying him. "You always this good at hiding it?" "Only around people who matter." I blinked. "That's supposed to flatter me?" "It's supposed to warn you." A silence stretched. Not heavy, just dense, like snow before the avalanche. Then I asked the question I'd avoided since I walked through his gates. "Why me?" He leaned back. The firelight caught the edge of his cheekbone, sharp as a blade. "You were kind to me when you didn't have to be. That doesn't fade." "That was a cupcake, Damien. I was 11. "You were kind," he repeated, and I remembered. "That's not love. I never said it was. But it's more than indifference." His honesty was too much. Too steady. I needed him to be worse than this. Colder. Crueler. But he wasn't. He was broken, maybe, but never hollow. I stood to leave. I couldn't handle the heat crawling up my neck, not from the fire, from him. But before I reached the door, he spoke again, quieter this time. "I used to watch the hallway when I was a kid, hoping you'd walk by again, with another cupcake." I turned. "You could have said something." I didn't want to ruin the only good memory I had. My chest tightened. "You talk like you're still that boy." "In some ways," he said. "I am." I didn't leave. I stepped closer instead, put my hand lightly, barely, on his shoulder. "A test." He didn't flinch, but he did close his eyes, just for a second, like my touch steadied him, or broke something open. "You're not who I expected," I said. "And who did you expect?" "Someone colder, scarier." He opened his eyes. "You haven't seen all of me yet." The promise in his voice wasn't a threat. It was a warning. And maybe a plea. That night, I didn't lock my door. Not because I trusted him, but because, for the first time, I wanted to know what would happen if I stopped running. Blackwood Estate, 1:46 a.m. Then came the storm. The first crack of thunder split the sky like a bone. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. The rain had turned violent, hammering the windows like fists. Wind howled down the marble halls, rattling the glass doors I hadn't locked. Then, darkness. The power went out. The room plunged into silence, pierced only by the storm outside. No hum of electricity, no artificial glow, just black. I fumbled for my phone. Dead. Of course. I got up, wrapped myself in my robe, and stepped into the corridor. Faint flickers of emergency backup lights pulsed along the floorboards, barely enough to see. The power system had failed before the generators could kick in. The house, so pristine by day, now felt like a labyrinth. Huge. Hollow. Watching. I didn't know where I was going, until I did. My feet took me to the study. He was already there. Damien stood by the fireplace, feeding it manually with logs. Shirt sleeves pushed up. No jacket. Just him, raw and shadowed by firelight. He turned when he heard me. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, stepping closer. "Power's gone," I noticed. "Your billion-dollar estate doesn't have a working backup generator?" "It does. It just doesn't like being woken up at 2 a.m. He paused. "Neither do I." But his voice didn't match the words. There was a softness to it, a layer of calm. He was glad I'd come. I stood across from him, both of us bathed in the orange light of the fire. The storm outside made the walls tremble. He handed me a glass of water. No wine. No games. I drank, and when I met his gaze, he was already watching me. Not with cold control, but something much more dangerous. "Elena," he said, low and steady. "Why didn't you lock your door tonight?" I froze. "You check?" I asked. "I had to check." I swallowed. "And if it had been locked, I would have walked away." "And because it wasn't, I waited," he said, "for you to come to me. And if I hadn't," he stepped closer, "I still would have waited." The air between us pulled tight. I felt it in my spine, in my stomach, in the pulse behind my ears. "I don't know what you want from me," I whispered. "Yes, you do." His voice was softer now. Sure, like velvet wrapping around glass. "You don't want to be owned," he said. "I get that. But don't lie to me or yourself and say you don't want anything." I felt heat rise to my face. I hated that. He was right. I hated how my skin came alive just from his nearness. I hated most of all that I wanted. He moved again. Just inches, close enough that the firelight cast both our shadows into one. "I don't want you to submit," he said. "I want you to choose." I met his eyes. Green-gray, storm-lit. "And if I say no, I'll live with it." "But you'll hate it." "Probably," I let out a breath. A laugh, tired, trembling. "You're dangerous." "So are you," he said. Then he reached up. Slowly. Gave me every chance to step away. I didn't. His hand cupped the side of my face, fingers threading into the damp ends of my hair. His thumb traced my cheekbone. My breath caught. "You're not scared," he murmured. "I am," I whispered. He tilted his forehead to mine. But not of me. The kiss didn't start sweet. It started like an avalanche. His mouth crashed into mine, hot, firm, consuming. And I didn't hold back. My fingers gripped his shirt, pulled him closer, demanding more. Years of restraint unraveled in seconds. His hands gripped my waist, lifted me slightly. My back hit the wall beside the fireplace. Cold stone. Hot mouth. His knee slotted between mine, parting me instinctively. I gasped. His lips moved to my jaw, my neck, my shoulder. Everywhere he touched felt claimed. "You drive me insane," he breathed. "Then stop," I panted. "I can't." He kissed me again, harder, deeper, like he was afraid this moment would be taken. And I kissed back like I didn't care if it was. I pulled away first, not from fear, from fire. I needed air. He let me go. Barely. We stood there, chests rising and falling in sync, sweat glistening where skin had met. Outside, the thunder rolled again. Inside, silence fell. But not the kind that meant distance. The kind that said we've crossed a line, and there's no going back. "Now you know," he said. "Know what? What happens when you—" "Stop running. Blackwood Estate, 2:14 a.m. The storm was still outside, but the wildfire was in here." He kissed me like he hadn't been allowed to touch anything real for years, and I kissed him back like I was tired of pretending I didn't burn. The wall was hard behind me. Damien's body was harder. His hands slid up the backs of my thighs, then gripped my hips with a possessiveness that made my breath hitch. "Say stop," he said against my lips. I didn't. Instead, I pulled his shirt up and over his head. His chest was solid, smooth muscle, ridged stomach, a faint scar across his ribs like a story he hadn't told yet. I pressed my palms to his skin, tracing the heat. He hissed through his teeth. "Elena," I leaned in. "Don't stop." He didn't. He scooped me into his arms with ease, carried me through the dark hallway, as if I weighed nothing. His room was twice the size of mine. Darker, warmer. A bed with black linen sheets, heavy curtains half drawn, shadows stretching like fingers across the floor. He set me down on the bed, breathing hard. And then he paused. Only for a moment. Just to look at me. I realized he was waiting. For fear. For hesitation. For me to pull away. I didn't. I reached for the belt of my robe, undid it slowly, let it fall. His eyes darkened. "You're beautiful," he said, like it hurt. I crawled backward onto the sheets. "Then show me." He followed, and when he kissed me this time, it wasn't frantic. It was deliberate, measured. He was learning, every inch of me with his mouth. My collarbone, the slope of my breast, the dip of my stomach. His hand slid beneath my underwear, knuckles brushing heat. I arched. He didn't speak, didn't rush, just moved lower, lips trailing a path down my body until his mouth met skin that had never been touched that way. I gasped, sharp and real and utterly unfiltered. His tongue was firm, controlled. His hand anchored my hips as I twisted beneath him, breath breaking into fragments. It didn't take long. My back arched. My legs trembled. My name spilled out of my own lips like it belonged to someone else. And he watched all of it. When he rose, again, I was panting, glowing, changed. He leaned down, mouth brushing my ear. "You are mine," he whispered. "Now and after." I answered by pulling him down. My hands went to his waistband. I undid his pants, slid them down. He was already hard, and he was big. But I didn't stop. I wrapped my fingers around him, testing, curious, and he swore softly, bracing one hand against the headboard. "Elena," he ground out, "don't tease me." "I'm not," I said. "I'm learning." He gave a rough, broken laugh. "Then come here." He positioned himself above me, arms braced, eyes locked to mine. Even now, even here, he was giving me one more chance to say no. I didn't. I nodded. He pushed in slowly. My body tensed, tight, unfamiliar. But he went gentle, controlled, 1 inch at a time, breathing through it with me. And when he was fully inside, he stilled. Let me adjust. His forehead pressed to mine. His breath shook. Okay? He asked. I nodded again. Yes. He moved. The pain faded quickly, washed away by the flood of sensation, of friction, of heat that built with every thrust. He filled me like he was made for it. Like I was made for him. Our rhythm found itself. Our bodies synced like we'd done this forever, even though it was the first time. He kissed me between thrusts, said my name, told me I was perfect, that he couldn't believe I was real. I didn't recognize myself. This bold, wanting version of me who moaned into his mouth, who clawed at his back, who met him thrust for thrust until we both shattered. Together. Afterward, he didn't move far. He stayed inside me, chest to chest. His hand tangled in my hair. My leg draped over his hip. Sweat cooling on our skin. The storm outside had started to die down. Inside, everything was still, warm, unreal. I didn't expect you, he said, voice hoarse. Not like this. You mean you didn't expect me to want you back? His jaw flexed. I didn't dare. I touched his face, traced the scar on his ribs, then whispered, I want all of you, even the parts you try to bury. He swallowed hard. I've buried a lot. Then dig. We lay there in silence. No games, no roles. Just skin and truth and 2 hearts that didn't know how to lie in the dark. I'd given him my body tonight, but he'd given me more. He'd let go, and so had I. Blackwood Estate, 9:17 a.m. I woke up thinking I was safe. The sun had just begun to pour through the curtains when I opened my eyes. Damien wasn't in bed, but the sheets beside me were still warm. I smiled. A small, stunned thing. My body still ached in the best way. My skin hummed from where his hands had been. For the first time in weeks, maybe years, I felt whole, desired, chosen. I slipped into his shirt, padded barefoot through the hall. The house felt different, lighter, until I turned the corner and saw her. Tall, red lips, blonde waves, legs like they belonged on a runway and stilettos sharp enough to kill. She was sitting on the velvet couch in the foyer like she owned the place, and Damien stood across from her, jaw tight, arms folded. I stopped. So did she. Her eyes slid over me like I was gum on the sole of her Louboutin. Well, she said, smiling like venom, so it's true. You do have a type. Naomi, Damien said tightly. This isn't your business. Really? Because she's all over the tabloids. Virgin heiress auctioned in scandalous debt marriage to elusive billionaire. And here I thought you liked women who didn't need a rescue. My stomach dropped. I walked in anyway. Looked Damien dead in the eye. You gonna tell me who she is? Naomi stood, draped herself across the arm of the couch like a bored cat. X. Business and pleasure, mostly the latter. I didn't invite her, Damien said. But you let her in, I snapped. Naomi smiled wider. You're quick. That'll help once the fantasy wears off and you realize what you are. Which is what? Her eyes glittered. A headline, a favor, a payment. Damien stepped forward. Enough. But I'd already stopped listening. Because something in his face. Something hesitated. Not denial. Not rage. Guilt. You told her? I asked, my voice quieter now. About my father. The contract. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. The floor fell out from under me. You said it. Wasn't about that. It wasn't, he said quickly. Not anymore. Not anymore? I stepped back. The air felt thinner, colder, like the house had suddenly remembered it didn't want me here. "You let me believe I had a choice?" I whispered. "You did? Then why does it feel like I was bought and gift-wrapped for your revenge story?" Naomi laughed softly. I wanted to slap her. I wanted to scream. Instead, I turned, and I walked. Damien called after me once, then twice. But he didn't follow. Not. At first, I packed in minutes. No luggage, just my shoes, my phone, and my name. The sky was overcast again. Rain threatened like a secret. I made it to the front gate. No guards stopped me. Of course not. He didn't need guards. Just guilt. Just truth. I caught a cab at the edge of the property. Checked into the first cheap hotel I could find. The bed creaked. The wallpaper peeled. But I could breathe. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just stared at the ceiling and wondered, which part of last night was real? The touch? The words? The way he'd said my name like a prayer? Or had I imagined it all? Hours passed. Then, a knock. I didn't answer. It came again, more urgent. I opened the door. Damien stood there, soaked, out of breath, eyes wild. He looked nothing like the man who had kissed me in firelight. He looked wrecked. "I made a mistake," he said. "You lied." "Yes," he said. "And I hate myself for it." "You should." "I do." He stepped inside. I didn't stop him. Because something about the way he moved, broken, deliberate, told me this wasn't strategy. This was surrender. He dropped to one knee. Right there. On the motel carpet. Not dramatic, not rehearsed, just raw. "I didn't know how to have you without controlling the terms," he said. "So I used the only tools I understood. Power, contracts, leverage. I wasn't a tool. No. You were a miracle. And I treated you like a transaction." My throat tightened. Why? Because if you walked away, I needed to be able to blame the rules, not myself. Tears burned the back of my eyes. I hadn't realized they'd built up. Why now? "Because last night," he said hoarsely, "you didn't give me your body. You gave me something I didn't know how to name." I swallowed. "And what was that?" He looked up. "Grace." I didn't answer right away. I just stepped closer. Took his face in my hands. His skin was cold from the rain, but his eyes burned, and mine matched. Outside the motel, 11:04 p.m. The rain was back, so was I. He knelt on the stained carpet like it was a cathedral. Rain clung to his eyelashes. His coat was soaked through. His shirt stuck to his chest like the skin had given up trying to keep him warm. "I can't do this without you," Damien said. The motel buzzed behind us. Neon, peeling paint, the scent of mildew, and something fried in old oil. But none of it mattered. Not with him on his knees and my heart in pieces. I dropped to the floor. Not to kneel. To be level. To touch him. I placed my hand against his jaw, and for the first time, he leaned into it without hesitation. "I didn't want to be rescued," I whispered. "I just wanted to be seen." "I see you," he said, voice raw. "Now I can't unsee you." "Then don't." He closed his eyes. The rain hit harder now, like the sky couldn't hold itself together either. "I'm scared," he admitted. "Of what?" "That you'll forgive me." My chest tightened. "Because then I'll have to forgive myself." I pulled him to his feet, took his hand, led him outside. We stood beneath the cracked motel awning, rain hitting pavement like 1,000. Heartbeats per second. His fingers trembled. So did mine. "Why did you wait here?" I asked. He glanced at me, hair plastered to his forehead, lips pale. "Because the last time you ran, I was waiting, and you hated me for it. And this time, I needed you to know I'd still wait. But I wouldn't chase, stared at him. You gave me back my choice. I had to, he said. Otherwise, what we had wasn't love. It was a well-decorated cage. I stepped into the rain. He followed. There, under the streetlight, between parked cars and puddles reflecting motel neon, we kissed. But it wasn't like before. It wasn't fire and hunger. It was slower, deeper, like a question answered, like a promise made. His arms wrapped around me, soaked, shirt to soaked skin, and I could feel the rhythm of his breathing change. Settle. Steady. I love you, he murmured. I know, I said. I don't deserve you. Too late. We drove back in silence. No music, no small talk, just glances, fingers brushing, breaths in sync. Back at the estate, no servants greeted us. No candles lit the halls. We didn't need them. We went straight to his room. No rush this time. Just undressing between silences. His hands softer now. Not claiming. Asking. Mine said yes, every time. When we made love again, it was different. Slower. Skin to skin, eye to eye. No one trying to win. No one hiding anything. It wasn't just about need. It was about knowing that we weren't escaping anything. Anymore. That we'd found what we were running from. Each other. Later, tangled in black sheets, his breath against my collarbone, he whispered, I never thought I'd belong to anyone. You don't, I said. You belong with me. His arms tightened, his breath slowed. He fell asleep like that, holding me like a vow. Dawn came in quietly. No thunder. No rain. Just warmth creeping through the curtains. I traced the scar on his ribs again. Now familiar. Now mine. He stirred. Eyes opened. Blinking. Focusing. What? He murmured. I was just making sure you're real. He reached up. Touched my cheek. And? You're warm. You're snoring. He laughed, groggy. Romantic. Always. We didn't get out of bed that morning. We didn't need the world. It would still be there, with its contracts and lies and rainstorms. But in that moment, in that room, wrapped in each other, there was no cage. Only freedom. And love that hadn't been bought. Only earned. He pulled me close. Whispered something against my skin. Mine. Then, softer. Forever. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and hit that subscribe button. Your support keeps these moments alive. And make sure you never miss the next one.